one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Director Diamond.
Here.
Director Hetherington.
Here.
Director Horvath.
Here. Here.
Director Rolfe.
Here.
Okay, Teresa is absent. The speaker piece reminder, a little bit different tonight. Instead of reading through the 10 items on speaker piece, I want to get the board's input on our position on this. If we feel like it's valuable to continue to read all 10 items, if we would like to focus on one item per meeting, or if you would like to do something different. Does anybody have any thoughts on this?
I like. I was on the Community Foundation when Phoebe Bell brought this back to the community and kind of pitched it around all of the agencies and tried to get people to adopt it in response to a lot of really awful behavior over at the school board at the time. And that was in 2010, and I feel like it's dated.
Okay.
I like their new updated one. I also like the one that the school board has used. They're all variations on the same one, but again, I just feel like this is a little out of date.
Okay. Any thoughts from you, Greg?
If you had a suggested change that was along a similar concept, I was going to be in support of it. And Kat just made a more specific suggestion, even if it was just, focusing on one per meeting as a way of changing it. Otherwise, right, we're just getting desensitized to it.
Right.
So I think any change might be a good shift.
Okay. Mary, any thoughts?
This is kind of like being human. This is how we should act as adults in the room, and I'm game for whatever. It's,
Okay, so maybe what we'll do when we get to our workshop, maybe we can make a decision about that.
Okay.
And then for tonight, in the spirit of improv, we live in one of the most amazing places on earth, and we're all fortunate to be here. And I think that it's good to take that recognition before we start any processes in this region, government or otherwise. That in mind, do we have any public comment on our speaker piece discussion? Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I mean, public comment, I can talk about anything?
We're not to the general public comment, just on that particular item,
Okay.
but we'll get to that, the general one. Okay, any modifications of agenda? From anybody in the public? One thing that I do want to note on here for the directors, the review and direction to staff at the end of the meeting is not on this agenda. And the reason for that is what I'd like to try is that we do review and direction to staff at the end of each item so that it's fresh in our minds and we know what we're expecting back from it. Maybe try that for a bit. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Now is the time for public comment on anything that is not on the agenda. Come on up to the podium if you would like to identify yourself. We would appreciate that. And you've got 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Carol Maher, the director for Kids Zone Museum, and I just want to pass this out. Well, we're really excited because we got a development permit from the town, so that sets us up to get a building permit, which we are submitting this Monday, and the town has told us to expect to have a permit by June. So we're super excited. You'll see in here that we have decided to do the project in 2 phases so that it's not so expensive. So phase 1 will be $9 million, and we've raised $6 million to date. We have, every year, we have been subject to increasing costs for building. And, you know, the whole project started at 8 million and a 12,000 square foot building. And then it went up to 11 million. So we decided to go with a metal building. So then the price dropped $1 million. And then it went up again. So to 13 million. So we had to, that's why we're doing it in phases. So we are our fundraising is chasing the escalation in costs, as well as we're going to be probably experiencing additional costs because of the tariffs. I just wanted to ask if, since our situation has changed since we applied for funding, if you might consider, since we are in a great position to start to break ground this spring. And that will help us to get in the building sooner. Our tent is, as you know, deteriorating. It's been a great tent for so many years, but it is deteriorating and has rips that we keep duct taping. It's great. It works, but we really need a new facility as soon as possible. It will take 18 months to build. And then we'll be able to have a 6,500 square foot building at Regional Park in 18 months from June. So I just wanted to ask you if you would just consider our project, since funding, offering us any type of funding, since we have come to this new position. Any questions? Or you're not allowed to add questions? Okay, thank you.
Would anybody on the board like to have that asset to be added to a future agenda? Would anybody like to direct staff to add this to a future agenda?
And we don't have to decide that today, but we certainly can talk about it at the strategic plan session as well.
Okay.
Which is probably the next meeting, actually.
All right. Any more public comment?
Hi, my name is Bob Belden. I was here last year in August talking about the same thing, so you're going to hear it again. I've lived in the area for over 53 years. I was lucky enough to purchase a home over 30 years ago in Prosser Heights, which is above the middle school. And if I knew then that I was going to be on a flight path of jets flying out of here on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I wouldn't have bought that house. And I love where I live, except on weekends in the summertime. It really stinks. The jet traffic is increasing. They're flying out of here full of fuel, full of people, full of luggage, and full throttle trying to climb over those mountains. And they're treetop level. It appears treetop level. I'm sure they're not, but it certainly looks that way. You can't sit outside. You can't do anything. It's getting worse. It was very noticeable this last year that in August, more traffic on weekdays. So it's not going to go away. It's going to get worse, and we need to start doing something other than talking about this. I look at the work you guys have done in your vegetation management program around here. You obviously are aware of the fire history in the area and the surrounding area and the Martis Valley, and you've taken the steps to mitigate it, and you've done an excellent job. The work that you've done works. It's really good. You're proactive. We need to be proactive with this. I spent 50 years in the fire service. I know what's going to happen. I know what it's going to look like when it happens, and I know if it happens on a summer afternoon in July, August, or September, there's not going to be anything left of that hillside. So let's really work on this. Let's push these people up 89 North, and I know runway 2 is an issue, but maybe some of them can go that way. But we've got to nip this in the butt before things get out of hand. And I went to the meeting the other night a couple of weeks ago. It was a great meeting. I got a lot of information out of it. And one of the comments from one of the panel members was that the folks that have these jets want to be part of the community, and they are part of the community. it's great. I admire them for their success in their business, and if I could afford one, I'd have one too. But I don't think they're actually feeling like they're part of the community. If they were, they wouldn't be flying over everybody's houses at all hours of the day and looking down at us and knowing what they're doing because their planes make a lot of noise. I don't think that that was the correct statement to make, because they obviously don't care. And we need to fix this. I didn't sign up for this, so thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any more public comment?
Hello, I'm Jamie McJunkin. I know a number of you. Thank you for your service on this board. And thanks to the staff. My comment actually is apropos to Bob's comment. I've lived here full-time since 2011, not as long. I live in Prosser, heavily impacted by the departure off runway 29, and notice it in particular on weekend mornings. I had the opportunity to listen in to the forum, and I kind of want to make 2 points. They're not necessarily related, but last week, in part because I got a number of texts around my name being called out as a local pilot who was not respectful of noise, and that I frequently departed at 5 a.m. Fortunately, now there's ADS-B data. You can determine when every aircraft comes and goes to the, I think, to the second. And I put all of that data for 3 years into ChatGPT and asked it how many flights were departed prior to 7 a.m. And I believe there were 4. 2 were at 6:55, and there was 1 at 5:40. I think this was over 3.5 years. And that if you had attended that meeting, you would conclude that I'm a disrespectful, affluent jerk flying an aircraft out of here. And I think I took 2 issues with it, and these are the 2 points. One is these public forums are meant to be constructive, and I don't believe calling people out personally is constructive, especially when it's not factual. So I was deeply disappointed that that comment was made. It kind of went on for a while, and it had absolutely no basis in reality. So regardless whether it's me or somebody else, I don't think we should get personal in these forums. The second point is that the local pilots are your allies. We are impacted. We are community members. We care about this stuff, and as a result, we have different procedures. The only time I ever take off of 29, which impacts us in Prosser, is if I have to because of the winds, which is actually quite infrequently the case, because I tend to fly mid-morning, midday, or if the weather is really acute. And so I do think exploring mechanisms to get more aircraft off of runway 2 and more aircraft off of runway 11 will do a lot to mitigate the community noise concerns, because I do think it is acute. Everybody, it's hard not to hear it, but it's not. I guess I would emphasize it's not the number of operations; it's the type of operation, specifically where a pilot chooses to fly, and I just want to raise my hand and say I'm doing my best, and I think it shows up in the noise footprint, and I think. I would encourage everybody here to include more local pilots in that. And the more people you have doing those departures, the more the flow starts to shift, where you're not coming off of 29 and not impacting the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Any more public comment? Closing public comment, consent agenda. Does anybody on the board want to pull any items? Anybody on staff want to pull an item? Anybody in the public want to pull an item? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call?
No, we don't have that roll call.
We don't have the roll call? Okay. Okay. Going on?
Because Teresa's not on Zoom.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And she was
Okay.
on Zoom.
So we have to,
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Got it. Okay, moving on to action items. Placer County LAFCO nominations. Rob, do you want to take that?
Yeah, just an introduction for this, then I'll turn it back to you, David. The executive director of the Placer County LAFCO, which is the Local Agency Formation Commission, sent us a letter and the other special districts in the area that notify us that there was an open position on the LAFCO board for Placer County, and that the special districts have an ability to make a nomination to fill the open seat of the independent special district board seat. And so we have an opportunity today that the details are included in the board materials. This is something that the board, I believe, has a recommendation, and then you have an opportunity to vote on that, and we can submit that. The deadline is tomorrow to submit a nomination for the election. That's it.
All right, thank you for that. Currently, Judy Friedman is serving on this. We nominated Judy to be a second alternate for Rick. And then when Rick was gone, she's now in that position. She has indicated she would like to continue in that position.
I would nominate Judy Friedman.
Second.
All in favor of Judy Friedman?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you, Judy.
Right. So what happens now with, as far as how we officially make this happen?
I believe there's a form we'll fill out, and I think we can submit it online via email, or we'll work that with you right after the board meeting to get that submitted, David. Should be fairly simple with your signature at this point.
Okay. All right, great. Tab 5, Agnew Beck, Strategic Plan Tune-Up. Shauna, would you like to speak to us?
Sure, I'd love to speak to you.
Okay, is this on? Good afternoon, everybody. Excited, nice to meet you in person. It's great to be here. We're honored to be invited back to be part of the Strategic Plan Tune-Up. I'm Shauna Doherty. I'm a senior manager with Agnew Beck Consulting. For those of you who don't know about Agnew Beck, we're a woman-owned business based in Anchorage, Alaska, with offices in Truckee and in Boise, and we've been around for about 22 years. For me personally, this is probably my 5th time coming back and doing various projects with the airport. So I think we have a good relationship, and I'm excited to continue down this journey with many of you. I'm here tonight just for a few minutes to give you a little bit of a preview for the March 10th session 1, and also answer any questions, and then explain a little bit about your homework. So the objectives of our contract over the next year is that the general idea is that we're gonna come 3 times for 4-hour sessions. There's a through line throughout the 3 sessions that will be focused on the objective of updating the strategic plan. And for the 4 of you, I've done interviews, so this is a little bit redundant, but as a reminder, the intention is not to touch the vision and the core values and the purpose. Those are supposed to be enduring. We're really going to be focused on strategies and actions, and looking at what's been done, what is it sort of paused, what do we want to sunset, and then this is really an opportunity for us to bring Greg into the fold. And so I was thinking about this on my drive over, is it doesn't mean that we can't go back to some of those foundational things with a new person that feels that some of the board's views are not reflected clear enough in that plan, but we'll talk about that at the session 1. It's also an opportunity, I know you guys get very much into the job of running this airport, so it is a great opportunity. We're not off-site at the first session, but we want it to feel like an off-site. We're gonna move the tables around, and it really is an opportunity for informal conversation, for you guys to get to know each other a little bit. We always say that really the most effective teams are the ones that have relationships that are authentic and built. So this is also an opportunity for you all to have time for that. We also want, and we're doing this as part of the interview process, is what are some of those strategic questions that we want to always go back and have conversations around and use this 4 hours, these 4-hour sessions to have conversations about these really big foundational topics that we really can't touch upon, but they sort of get brought up in how we think about decisions. So we are going to talk a little bit about what some of those questions might be at session 1. And then the other through line throughout the 3 sessions will be board development, leadership development. What kind of board member do you want to be when you show up? What skills, conversations do you want to have? What trainings to make this meaningful for you? Any questions on that?
Mary? No questions?
Okay.
Kat?
If we have something that I didn't say today, can I just?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so a little bit about our process, just so everyone understands. We kicked off the process by interviewing each of the board members one-on-one to get a temperature of how things are going, how we haven't been involved in the airport district since 18 months ago. So just from an observational point, we can see that you're doing incredible work with moving, in our perspective, with the strategic plan, like moving things forward. We pay attention to that, but we just wanted a chance. And we're using that feedback to shape the agenda, not only for 1, but for starting to plan 2. So feel free, we've had an hour to an hour 15 conversations with each of you. If there's additional things that the conversation triggered, absolutely, it's helpful for us. So to email me. This is just an overview. This was in our scope, and again, I've said this to a few of you. We are only wanting to show up and be in service, and so we always like to say, even though we have a contract for 2025, we want to do 1 and then check in and see if this is what you want to spend the resources and the time on, and we'll do the second one, and then we'll check in on the third. We do, after conversations, want to set you up for the budget conversation, and so we don't want the process of the strategic plan tune-up and the budget coming in the fall to be separate. We want to, like, at some point merge the 2 and have them be one process. So as we get to meeting 2 and 3, we're going to start prepping for that. So we have 2, and we have 2 with the date set. Thank you, Lauren, for doing that. Each are 4 hours. This is just example agendas. We're still fine-tuning the March 10th, but like I said, there's basically, you'll see across them, there's always some strategic planning topic, and then some board development. And then we'll move more into the budget conversation. So last slide, this is my Strengths Finder. So as a reminder, you each have one of these books. And then in the back, I took my survey. So there's a special code. So this is my code. And I go online, and then you plug the code in. Because I had coffee with Mary, and she was doing her amazing job of starting to read the entire book. And these are my strengths that I've earmarked. And so I'm only reading these sections of the book. So these are my talents that I bring to you. If you can go to the next slide, I think, Lauren, I have one. So next one. So what I want you to do, if you don't mind, is share with me your strengths that came out of your survey. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put your names here and Rob's, and then we're going to put your scores across. These are the outcomes of this Strengths Finder. And then we're going to do an aggregate of the totals. So like, what are the strengths of the team, and then what are your individuals? So this is when I ask you to send it to me. This is where I'm going to put it. And we'll just start. It's just a fun. It's not a very. This is really more of an icebreaker, because I know you've done these types of things before. But with a new board member, I think it's just a pretty fast way to learn a little bit about the way different brains work. I think that's it. Any questions? Maybe Rob could do this with staff afterwards. Yeah,
Any questions from the board?
yeah. All right, thank you for inviting us back. And Ellen will be with me at the first session, and then Allison Schwedner, and then Emily at the third one, I think. So,
Thanks, Sean.
all right, thanks, everyone.
Do we have any public comment on that item? See no public comment. We'll go to tab 5, item 5, board committee assignments, ad hoc committee reports.
We'll start with Laura and then Jeff.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add than what was on the report. We did a lot of policy review and work at the special meeting. We sent back the purchasing policy to have more updates and to be reviewed further by our legal counsel. That was about it.
For the River Revitalization Steering Committee, we presented the 3 catalyst projects to Town Council on the 28th. They unanimously approved it. So there's a project that'll be on East River, kind of Central and West River. And we're excited to begin that work. There are 2 liaisons from the River Committee who've been appointed to each of those catalyst projects to act as the uninterested third party. They can also report back to the R2SC and to town staff to, here's what the land and business owners are doing, and here's what the town's doing to try to continue the conversation in a productive way and to make sure that we're making progress.
Climate Transformation Alliance, I'll just highlight the next, there was previous quarterly meeting notes, and there's links in there to those presentations at the last formal meeting that took place. The next meeting is April 11th. It's going to be in Kings Beach at the community center there, convention center, and it's going to be focused on ground transportation in the basin and around the Truckee area as a deliberate focus of that CTA meeting. Anything else you add? Airport community team meeting, the next one's on there. We'll plan on doing that as an online Zoom forum and talk about our 2024 sustainability report. And we're working on that right now with our consultants and hope to have that finalized before that meeting so we can share that out with the collective community about what our footprint looks like for sustainability of the airport with our consultant N0 that's working that report. We had a previous meeting, and we'll talk about that during the AFCON report for this last month, this month on noise and annoyance as the ACT meeting. We'll come back around to that when Jeff's talking about a summary of that.
A comment here in that I think we had talked about maybe in August, instead of the on-field nonprofits overview, maybe having that type of outreach again to the community. I think it was very valuable.
Yeah, I think there's a potential for our busy season holding another ACT meeting on noise during the busy season, during the summertime, July, August timeframe. So we'll look at scheduling that and shifting the schedule around here.
And to address, Jamie's point, we could start with the rules and the protocols of, speak your piece or whatever we adopt.
And that is it. No further on TMA. Yeah.
There's no update for TDMA?
Just what's in the board book.
Okay. Any questions from the board on any of this?
Nope.
I had a question about the river revitalization. David and I met with Jason, who was on your subcommittee last week.
Yes.
He explained that it's disbanding,
What's this pending?
the River Revitalization Committee.
Not true.
Isn't that what he explained to us?
I think you're subcommittee.
Oh, the subcommittee, okay.
No. The river, so there's the River Revitalization Steering Committee, R2SC Brown Act. There are 2 subcommittees, both under Brown Act, River Health, Economic Vitality. I'm the chairman of the Community Economic Vitality Action Team. So you have 3 Brown Acted committees. Under that, there's a couple other subcommittees. Originally, when town council approved the R2SC almost 2 years ago, or the concept of it, we've gotten to a point of where the original vote for the length of time and what the R2SC was going to do, kind of there. It will continue. The subcommittees will continue. I think instead of being a monthly meeting, at least the Economic Vitality Action Team will go to probably quarterly meetings after the next couple months, because the catalyst projects become the vehicles for planning, zoning, learning, feedback to town as to how to catalyze the entire river corridor. So those catalyst projects become the vehicles for learning and to truly try to catalyze what's happening. So the original roles of these subcommittees, the Economic Vitality Action Team specifically, is going to change. In fact, it's on the agenda for our next meeting in March to talk about how the Economic Vitality Action Team, where originally was supposed to be like, go change the planning and zoning and what can you do with floodplain and housing, things that are really, really difficult. And instead, we're using the catalyst projects for the learning process, where the Economic Vitality Action Team would provide overwatch and synchronization and identifying trends and barriers and obstacles, whether it's county, state, local, etc., to try to learn from this project. So it is not going away.
Okay,
It's repurposing.
thank you.
Yep.
I have a question in that.
Wait, hold on a second. Greg, do you have a question?
No questions.
Was part of this was with the long-term vision of things getting moved off the river, and wondering where that's happening with TTSA, the sanitation
Right.
agency. Where is that in the process?
Yes, I'm also on another subcommittee that it's non-Brown Act. It is receiver site representing the airport district. It's a chicken and the egg problem. So everyone says, this is what we want the river to look like. And then you go and ask the business and landowners, like, well, where would I go? And then they kind of look at the town or private enterprise. People are like, well, where would you want to go? So it's, again, chicken, egg, chicken, egg. So the 3 catalyst projects identified were selected for some specific reasons. So on the East River Street, the Tanner project, there's an opportunity for potential relocation. So instead of taking it to a high level of what's available, TTSA, is it bare dirt, power, water, sewer, vertical structure, or just dirt? Instead of it just being these broad strokes where people get frustrated because there's no clear expectation, nor is there a clear requirement, the Catalyst project with Tanner property, with the opportunity to expand to 3 or 4 other properties along the length of East River Street, would consume almost 3, potentially repurposing or relocating 350 feet of businesses that don't need to be on the river. They're construction companies. Is with the Tanner project to identify some specific requirements that could then be fed to the receiver site subcommittee and to the R2SC to work with the various public agencies, as well as such as the Pioneer Center as well, on the private sector, to say there's a requirement for 1.75 acres, it's X, Y, and it's Z. Now what can you do? So that's the status of the receiver site.
It seems like it's going to have to take the first one before the
Correct.
cards can fall.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Good work.
We have any public comment on the board ad hoc committee reports? No public comment. We'll go to management team, general manager's report. Rob.
I just want to highlight 2 things on my report. One is that we are working with our TTSA, our Soaring Association, as a tenant out in our airfield. The facility they've been using at the airport for some number of years has become functionally obsolescent, and we've moved to the point where we have now taken that building down to the ground and removed it. And as planned for this year within our budget, we plan on replacing that for a lease facility with TTSA with a mobile temporary office trailer, and we're working on finalizing the groundwork there in the winter conditions so that 2 months from now we can bring in that trailer to have that ready and wired for power for the operating season. We're planning on a March agenda item to talk about that more robustly and what that looks like, and we'll be at a better point a month from now to have acquired, identified the trailer and talk about the footprint of that area and how that corresponds with the existing lease that we have in place with TTSA, our soaring association operator out on the airfield. The other item just wanted to highlight is that we did hold a sustainable aviation fuel immersion event here this month. We invited a number of industry professionals here to visit the airport, look at how this airport district has approached sustainable aviation fuel as it being the only fuel, jet fuel, that we provide to our customers here. It's a drop-in fuel solution, ASTM certified. We work with distributors to acquire that, put it in our tanks here, then sell it to our transient and local tenants that are jet operators. We've been doing that for over a year now, and we've been doing it at a price point that we find is digestible and adoptable by both our local tenants and our transient tenants. And we shared that experience in a SAF playbook, we're calling it, that we put together with another consultant called Earth Finance, that took all of our notes of over the last year and a half, 2-year journey to get to where we're at now, to be able to share that information out in a roughly 20-page information document that we're going to begin pushing out to the general aviation community, starting right here in California, the general aviation community, to help share how we did that and how it might work for those airports, at least to begin to address and approach this type of movement. The whole industry at large for aviation plans on moving to adopt sustainable aviation fuel over the next 20 years. So different sectors of the aviation community are adopting that at different rates. And I would say we're probably at the tip of that effort and being an early adopter, and now we're sharing out that information for others to see how to do it. And it was a good event and well participated, and a lot of good feedback from that. And so we're just starting to share out that document, that SAF playbook now. I'll hold comments about our safety noise meeting until the AFCOM report. Jeff has some more detailed notes in his report and can talk about that a little more detailed. That's all I have, unless there's questions, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff and Kelly after Josh, if he has anything from legal perspective.
Greg, any questions for you this morning? Kat? Mary?
I just noticed that on there you link to the video of the meeting, which is great, but it would also be good to link to all the Zoom comments that came in, because I was contacted and they wanted to hear what all those Zoom contacts, and I even had to call Lauren to say, where do I find it? And I think that would be an appropriate thing.
Yeah, we'll add those chat comments. I did send all the chat comments to the board in an email, so you had those, so you can read through those, but we'll add those to the website link of the video, so we have the full information there.
Right.
Yeah.
People were interested, so thank you.
Sure. Josh?
I don't have anything specific, just wanted to note, obviously a lot going on at the state and federal level right now. On the federal level, Rob and I have been in communication as a couple of topics have come up, some related directly to airports, some more generally some of the issues that have been raised. And I know Kaplan Kirsch, our Aviation Council, has been providing updates. We'll continue to monitor what's going on and raise things as appropriate with the board. And then at the state level, just a reminder that now is sort of the beginning of the legislative year. So all the bills that'll be considered this year are being introduced. There's a whole slew of them. At this point, there's so many at a high level aren't really worth any, they're not any worth noting. But as we kind of work their way through the process and we see what really has a realistic view to get through, we'll bring those back and start highlighting those in future reports. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Josh? Jeff?
All right. Go through the AVCOM report, kind of the standard stuff, and then we'll cover the ACT noise meeting. January, we had more ops than normal for January, but we had incredibly good weather. Typically, there was no impacts. We had a half day of closure for snow removal. I'll talk about the noise at the end of the report, and just an update on the short-term hangar rentals. I'll update these numbers. So we started on the 19th of December, so our overnight hangar rental program, as of tonight, we've generated $21,762, so $22,000 of gross income. We have 3 dedicated hangars to that. If you remove the rent that we would have received from leasing those hangars, we would have a net income of $9,200, so we're still money ahead. And if you remove the labor costs for the tow-ins and the tow-outs, we're up $4,100. So it's pretty good for a new line of business in the district for being 7.5 weeks old. We're $4,000 up and providing service to the aviation community, and we're also reducing the position depositions, as well as getting aircraft off the ramp that produces workarounds for snow removal as well. So it's been very successful. It's been in AOPA magazine, Flying magazine, and I think in May or June we'll also have an article in Airport Improvement magazine, because there's not another airport in the U.S. doing this. Once again, pioneering. Moving on to, I already mentioned operations. So operations were up both by jet and piston. I would correlate that to the incredibly clear weather. I think it was like the 5th driest January on record here. We all lived through it. It's been sunny, high pressure, as you see it here. In terms of flight quiet, even with the increase of traffic, noise complaints registered, whether call-in person, or online, we're down 48%. Let's go to the second page. We begin Fly Safe for the year tomorrow. Chris Barbera will be talking about single pilot operations and operating in the weather. And the hangar wait list, we've opened that back up. We sent emails out to everyone that has expressed interest. We closed the wait list for about a year. So we canvassed everyone that had inquired in that window of time, and in about a week and a half, we'll open it up to the public writ large. So the numbers you see here are going to fluctuate quite a bit. I think technically as of today, we're down to 81. My guess is when I report to you next month, it'll be higher than 81. We'll go to the noise portion. So I think everyone knows we had the noise meeting earlier this month. The event lasted 2 hours, and staff stayed behind and talked to every resident that wanted to talk. And we stayed behind probably, I was there another hour and a half almost talking to people. And in terms of outreach, we emailed 2,286 recipients. We sent that out 3 times. We sent it out early. We sent it out, it's next week. We sent out the last email. There's a meeting tomorrow. Kay called the last 120 residents that have registered a noise complaint that we had contact information for. She talked to approximately 50 people. We had print in the Sierra Sun. It was on our website, and digitally both advertised in Sierra Sun and Moonshine Inc. We had about 60 people in person. We had 3 board members here, and on Zoom approximately 30. There was an article in the Sierra Sun. Content, we had staff as well as our tower manager, Larry here, talked about statistics starting from 2006 in terms of operations, complaints, the economy, and home construction. We talked about airspace. We reviewed the complaint process, and then Rob led a Q&A discussion with the community that went about an hour and a half. Some large takeaways from the discussion: frustration with the lack of action on the complaints. I'll just point out, rarely is there anything we can do when we get those. Concerns over large jets and flight paths. A good discussion over what we can legally do per law, state law, as well as federal law with grant assurances. Some observations. The tone was respectful by and large. There were a couple outliers, as noted earlier, but it was generally respectful given the sensitivity of the topic. There's a consensus, you heard it here today, that jet traffic has increased. It has not increased. We've had approximately the same jet traffic footprint from about 2015. I can provide the numbers. It was in the January report. I started looking at the past 5 years, but our jet traffic numbers are very consistent within single-digit percentages, typically driven by the state of the economy and what's going on with the weather. I say that based on fact. Clearly, we have not done a good job communicating that it's about the same year in, year out, both for jet and turboprop. Most residents were unaware of the FAA regulations, lots of comments about things that we absolutely cannot do. So it was a good opportunity to educate. And there was some interest in deploying noise monitoring systems into the neighborhoods. We sent out a survey. We had 43 respondents. If you go to the next slide, you can see some of the, maybe hard to read here, but first one, did you find the airport? Did you attend the noise event, the upper left? Most were virtual of the 43 that replied. Staying on the left column, did you find the event informative? In green, close to 65% said yes. Third block down, would you be interested in attending a similar event in the future? And approximately 63% said they would. Going to the upper right, how did you find out about the event? Predominantly it was email. So even though we did all those other outreaches, email was by far the number one event to get folks out here. And lastly, did you feel the event addressed your concerns? Pretty even between yes, somewhat, and no. We can go back up to the text above. So in terms of next steps, there's a noise symposium in March 10th to 12th. Greg Horvath, our board member, is going. The general manager is going. Kay, our noise technician, is going. One, maybe two. By the way, in the emails and here in person asked for volunteers that the district would pay for a community member to go. We had 2 volunteers. They're both tenants here, pilots at the airport. We didn't have any community members that were impacted or that were concerned volunteer to go. So right now we're going to send one of the local pilots. If we get a community member that's not a pilot that's interested, we would be ecstatic to send them. Second bullet, we will continue the dialogue. Clearly, there's some education gaps that we can try to close. I don't know how well they'll be received, very honestly, but we will continue to close that gap. I think after the noise conference, we'll have some, we can relook at how we do our engagement. Perhaps a meeting in July. Lots of not worth discussing here, but I think there are some things we can do to how we re-engage this topic. And we can also explore data collection with noise monitoring systems. I think post-conference we'll know more. If you could scroll down, keep going. I just want to, I'll tell you what, I'll keep going and we'll come back to noise. You go to the top, Lauren, I'm sorry. We'd mentioned this before, so we've contracted with 1,200 Aero. It's a aircraft data system. It takes ADS-B data, but packages it in some really easy to use, neat ways, and we can use it also with over on our hangar rentals. So you can see it up here. So it shows 1,922 operations last month. I think we actually had like 2,400 operations. The system was down for 3 days. But you can see it shows your landings, your takeoffs, your go-arounds, as well as your overflights, and you can see it by day, across the month, total number of operations. And scroll down. Lauren, thanks. This is really interesting. So it shows weather. So that gray block in the front was the low pressure system we had with a half day of closure. And it shows temperature and winds, and you can see in January weather was fantastic, which is why my hypothesis is why we had more aircraft operations. Again, fully automated. And scroll down. That just shows the receiver health. So the system was down for almost 3 days. Scroll down. And then it just shows operations. It shows your takeoffs and landings by which runway and by type. This is our first month using it. I'll make it larger. Next slide. It shows aircraft categories, operations, so air taxis, about a quarter of the traffic. General aviation's the other 75% or so. Scroll down. Shows your airports, San Francisco and San Carlos, both for origin and destination. The primary, which we've kind of known, just backed up by the data. Scroll down. Shows aircraft types. Your upper left, the purple is a Cessna 172, followed by the PC-12 and Cirrus. In the upper right, the green, that is piston, jet is the purple, and then turboprop is the lower right, red. And, we'll keep scrolling. I won't go through all of them. There's lots of good information. Keep going. Thank you, Lauren. And then last, keep going. Keep going. Kind of going back to noise, just after the meeting, we looked at all of our data and noise complaints, trying to make sense of post-meeting. So in 2024, 69% of all of the comments came from 5 households, just for reference. Scroll down. We also created just a word picture. I was asked where the noise complaints are coming from. This is based on data. No surprise, it's Martis Valley Estates off the end of the runway, followed by Olympic Heights. Scroll down further. And just showing you predominantly on the green arc on the right is web form. The hotline via voice is in black, and about 8% are some form of in-person or the dispatch. And you scroll down further to the bottom, sorry, Lauren. And then here's where I think it gets tricky. So of the 719 noise complaints that we had, 500, the big green arc, or the big part of the pie, at 764, which was 81% of all the complaints. The aircraft was doing everything it was supposed to. It was on glide slope, it was over the bypass, it was on a Mogul 2, it was on an RNAV 20. So the vast, 80% of the complaints, when you look at it, it is what it is. It's exactly as advertised. 19%, 153 of the noise complaints were aircraft or something. It doesn't mean the aircraft was, buzzing around, 100 feet, running their engine up and down. It could have been weather, it could have been traffic, could have been a number of things, or it could have been a pilot that was not where they were supposed to be, or maybe potentially, very egregiously. And in the black, when we get those, we reach out and we try to educate as best we can with the contact information we have available. So that is everything I wanted to share in the AVCOM report, and we can take any questions.
Can you, since we do have an opening for a community member to attend the noise, how do they contact you if they're listening?
However they want. They can call, email, they can,
Can you give them an email so that people hear this?
Jeff.Manasco@TruckeeTahoeAirport.com. If you go to our website, click staff, they'll be, right there. We also have a general information, which will go to the generic info at Truckee Tahoe Airport. I think all the directors get that same email. So, or if somebody tells you, well,
Yeah, if you're watching this online, you probably are on our website and have all the contact information for us there.
Perfect. Any questions?
In that realm, from Kay talking to 50 households, is there value in her contacting some of those people that, gave you an email, gave you a phone number, sending out a global to them saying there still is a space if anyone's interested? I would offer that as an
My
option.
understanding is every one of those households that have been reached out to by phone also received an email with the invitation to volunteer to attend the noise conference.
Some people thought they had to be at the meeting to be included in this option, and they could not attend the meeting. So that's why I'm offering this as a second chance.
Sure. We have another e-blast going out on the 1st of March, and we'll include another reminder in there to solicit people to volunteer.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
I had a few comments. First of all, Kay, thank you for calling me at home. And I did get all of the communication. It was very well done, very well rolled out. I was out of town, so I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch it back, and it was disconcerting watching it back because I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the whole screen is all the people on Zoom in one tiny little square at the top that you can't really open up. So it was, couldn't really see who was talking, or if there's a way to reverse that, that'd be great. Because I don't really need my whole page to be who's on Zoom. I was extraordinarily impressed with crowd management by Rob. I thought you did an excellent job, and that was not easy because people were emotional, and I felt like, you know, there's always the rogue commenter that, you know, throws somebody under the bus. That's really hard to get in front of, but I thought it was well done. And lastly, on the very last page of this, the word abetment means conspire to, and I think we want abatement, which is lessen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback what Kat just said. It's one thing to put it on an event like this. It's another thing to advertise it so well and to really make it happen that people show up. And it's not easy to stand in front of a room and let them give you candid feedback. So huge kudos to all of you for putting that on. I thought it was a huge success and just wanted to applaud that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, looks like some of the action items that are coming out of it as well. I did have a question on, is there any, Jeff, you mentioned July, but I couldn't remember which bullet point it was in reference to. Is there any rough timeline on when we might be able to talk about new data collection systems?
Yeah, to be more clear, what we have discussed is when everyone comes back from the noise conference, kind of, you know, gets the latest and greatest. We're not going to wait till July. We'll do it very shortly thereafter. I think to relook at all of our assumptions, the way what our website looks like, how we do our outreach, how we handle complaints. So I think it's, you know, we can relook everything, but I think it'd be good to do it shortly after the noise conference, after some of our leadership goes and here's what the industry, what academia, what other airports are doing. It won't be July, we'll do it shortly thereafter.
Okay, sounds great.
Yep.
We'll do public comment when we're after the finance
Yeah.
report.
I
Can I
still-
talk?
Okay, you have on this?
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment on the two things. One, the ACT meeting was really well done, and Kay, yes, thank you for that work, and that was what was nearer and dearer to my heart, to be honest with you, was the SAF immersion event. And the reason for that is we come here and there's an event that this airport is sponsoring, and there's somebody from Alaska Airlines here, and there's somebody from San Francisco International here to find out how we do this. And the rep from San Francisco International saying that on our coattails, Signature Aviation at SFO is now offering SAF exclusively. I wanted that to be brought up because that's a significant, I believe, a significant impact of the effort that we've made in moving towards SAF. Just the fact that those people would be here to see this symposium, and then also if we had that kind of an impact with a major FBO at a obviously major airport, that's pretty impressive. So congratulations on doing that. Kelly, finance.
No, I have comments on this.
Yes, okay.
In terms of this new graph with the overflights, the landings and takeoffs, it all doesn't add up, but I'm figuring the next time it'll.
It doesn't add up because there were almost 3 days of data where it was not, that's where the system was down. So we installed it and went live-ish on the 28th, 29th of December. And with the company, we're getting it tweaked. It's up on the beacon. And so it was just down for 3. So there's 3 days of data.
Got it.
Not in there.
So the other aspect was at the meeting, many people express, and on Zoom, the touch and goes. Is that captured in this?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
So
It's the
that,
best data we have to date, because in the past, we didn't have anything other than Tower somewhat has it. They use an algorithm, so if your ADSB lands and comes to an altitude and an airspeed, but doesn't stop and continues, it's recorded as a touch and go. So it's using science and data available to record the actual touch and
So
go.
it's
So it's
actually
by
getting
far the best data we've ever had.
great, because I don't think we were ever able to really
We've never-
capture that.
It's been a clicker kind of thing.
Great, that's awesome. And, okay, now I understand why those numbers don't match. Then, what is interesting about the very last graph, which, you're right, there's 81%, we're flying the noise abatement, but that means there was 19% that weren't. And that's fairly significant, and just sort of, I know you're thinking about that and trying to put your hands around that, but, 19% is a significant number. And it was a very valuable meeting. I think in the aspect of telling people that they've been heard, because I think people have felt that they haven't been heard. And yes, we are constrained with what we can do or can't do, but to at least acknowledge to people is very valuable. And I think we have to continue that outward facing and attitude. So thank you.
Kelly.
Good evening. I'm just going to echo Jeff and Rob and everyone else. We had a clear, dry January, which was great for revenue and operations. Overall, $6 million in revenue. We're up $582,000 to budget. $1.1 million in expense, under by $200,000 to budget. Net income of $4.7 million. We are now live with NetSuite. Very exciting. This is our first month with the new reporting. So working out a few bugs on the monthly service bills and fees. So you saw a little bit of funky format, but we've got a new report that we'll have for next month. We are in the middle of the audit right now. The field work is going to happen on the 17th and the 18th of March. Good news on the insurance front. We should be getting back $152,000 from Lloyd's of London as a refund for the old property insurance now that we got the new. And you'll notice a little bit of a shift in the property tax revenue now, so I'm recording it as we get it. So budgeted that way and recorded that way to show when we actually get the funding, which is usually January and June, and then there's a little bit that trickles in between. Any questions on January?
Greg, any questions? Kat?
No questions.
Mary?
And I mentioned it. It's more in the bills that Cassell is going away and NetSuite's coming in, and that's going to be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Already.
Do we have any public comment on any of the management team reports? All right. Future agenda priorities and meeting management. Rob?
No additional comments at this point.
Okay. Any questions from the board about that? Any public comment? All right. Staff board member conference attendance reports. Anybody gone anywhere?
We invited everybody here this last month to do the staff immersion, so we didn't travel. At least I didn't.
Okay.
There is some plan for the future, but we can talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Board member announcements. Mary, anything?
Just in terms of folks going to the Noise and Air, and it's also Air Emissions Symposium, that it might be nice to have feedback from the people who have gone, a quick little summary, either written or telling us what they got out of it. I think that would be valuable.
Yeah, definitely be covering that in my management report for the next board meeting in March. Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll be talking about it ahead of time, I'm sure. Yeah.
Greg, any announcements from you? Kat? Announcement.
Duke's number 2.
I've got two. One for the board, we're coming up on the general manager review. So what we're gonna do is the process that we used last year, Greg obviously wasn't here for this. I'm gonna reset all these things, get them to you by Monday and then you've got until our next board meeting to review the questions that are in there and see if there's anything missing or anything you want to change. We'll have a closed session at the next board meeting to discuss that. And then the following month, we'll actually do the review.
Great.
Does that work for everybody?
That's great, being ahead of the curve.
Yes. And the second announcement, yeah.
Organized.
The town of Truckee is considering a resolution opposing funding cuts that have hit our region, specifically for what relates to us is the U.S. Forest Service. 21 people have been laid off there, and there is concern about as we go into this very, very dry season, this is not the time to be losing the people who are paying attention to trails and what's going on with campers and that sort of thing. So they are asking if we would be interested in basically signing on to their resolution in support of it as a district. They're asking the other districts around as well. If we do agree we're going to do that, it would require a special meeting in the next few weeks to make just that decision to coincide with their March 11th council meeting, where they will officially pass this or not. So my question just to the board is, do we have interest in having that meeting to make that decision?
Yes.
Yes, from Kat?
Interest in having the meeting to have the discussion.
Yes.
Yes, I'm interested in having the meeting to have the discussion.
Mary?
I think, yes, needs to send a powerful statement.
Okay, I'm also in support of that, so if we could.
Yeah, I'm guessing that would be potentially on the 13th. Director Horvath is gone on the 12th of the Noise Symposium. I'm not sure if the other director's availability or how close we want to tie it to the March 11th when meeting of the town council, when we'll actually get the final documentation that we'll want to review. So at this point, unless there's other conflicts, I would suggest the 13th for a special meeting of March, if there's availability, and we can do that. I think the town would want us to have a timely feedback of an opinion from the board here on their resolution.
Could we have it half an hour before the March 10th workshop?
We could, we just wouldn't have the final, we probably have the final language that the town is going to review. You just don't.
Oh, I thought they wanted it before they reviewed.
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
The town is meeting on March 11th to review and come to consensus on their position with a resolution. We need that final resolution, and I would suggest you'd want the town's position on that to review. So it would be, you could do it ahead of time potentially, but I don't know you would have all the information from the town with their discussion that you might want to know that they passed it.
So that's a chicken and an egg sort of thing too, isn't it? Because if we're going to sign on to their resolution, or do we have to do our own resolution? How?
We would do our own resolution, I would assume adopting the resolution or commenting on it.
Yeah, or adopting one that's substantially the same, and maybe references theirs, but we'd figure that out depending on what they did.
Right.
Okay.
So I think it has to come after there's what I suggest, so you have the full context of their discussion and their position.
Although that's an
You don't have to,
point.
but,
If we're doing our own, in theory, we could do something before the 10th meeting. We wouldn't have to wait for the town.
If you work with their language, yes, we could do it ahead of time. You're not worried about their position. You can come to your own position, and they would have that.
What do we think of that?
Josh? Yeah.
It's really, I'm not trying to punt it back to you, but it really is up to the board. The benefit of waiting until the town has their meeting is you know exactly what their position is going to be. I think, as you've seen, sometimes things are in an agenda packet, and then there's a great discussion, and that great discussion leads to edits, especially in a policy document like this. But that being said, if it's more convenient, it makes more sense for us to take advantage of already having March 10th reserved and just going ahead adopting something based on where we would like to see it, assuming it's going to be basically the same subject. We can definitely do it that way. It really is the board's call.
I guess there's the value of consistency. If using the same language that the town is might be better than us trying to put more work on staff to develop a resolution. And that might just be, it's stronger language to have it cohesive from
Yeah, and a
everybody.
consistent voice from the community, from different public agencies, right?
I'm unclear on what the theoretical impact of such a resolution might or might not be.
The plan was to deliver to local congressmen for this area, I believe, is their intent.
Okay.
So Representative Kiley for,
Who's not answering his phone?
So, I mean, we could do it the 10th. We have a scheduled workshop. Then we could go with the draft language that is already that will be published at that point for the town.
I mean, I guess it would be how much do we anticipate differing? And that I don't have the information to make that judgment call. But if you have a sense,
I have no sense.
Okay. Because if we expect them to do
Right.
a job that is likely representative of what we would come up with, could theoretically save ourselves the time, and maybe with minor tweaks or just yay or nay on something after they've already put it together.
Right. And there is the possibility that they might not pass it.
Also,
They might
yeah.
choose to not pass that for because we don't know how that vote's going to go.
So what we could do is go ahead and agendize it for the 10th, but also agendize it as a special meeting for the 13th to give us flexibility on how you're all feeling about it. If you're not feeling it on the 10th, we can wait till they're done on the 11th and then have a agenda item scheduled if folks are available on the 13th.
I think that's a great idea. We good?
Are they pushing us to do it more quickly than our next regular board meeting?
I talked about with the town manager, knowing they were going to have this on the 11th, of us having a special meeting probably within that same week to provide feedback to go along with their feedback, and they were satisfied with that. They're talking to other districts in the area as well.
Any public comment on board member announcements? Okay. All right. We have the schedule of upcoming meetings, which we don't have to go over. Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, everybody.